everyone, I'm Lavonne and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I am back for more of your questions from YouTube and from Instagram. We are going to be talking a little bit about breastfeeding, about C-section recovery. We're going to talk about lightening crotch. We're going to talk about those annoying contraction-like things you have in the middle of the night that go away and never seem to do anything to your cervix, or maybe they do. We're going to talk about GBS and delayed cord clamping, and I answer a whole lot of your questions today. This is your March coffee and question. Before I get started, don't forget to subscribe down below, and then let's get started. I apologize that this video was one day late. I was in a car accident actually 2 nights ago and I am very uncomfortable. I pre-medicated and I'm drinking my coffee, and we're gonna knock this out and get some of your questions answered today, but it's probably not gonna be like a 25-minute video. I'm just gonna try to fly through these questions as fast as possible. Wish me luck, because Lord knows I am not the most short-winded person in the world. Oh, also, before I get started, I wanna let you know that I am very much paying attention to the number of subscribers that are happening, and I am so grateful and overwhelmed. I am already past 20,000 subscribers. You guys are amazing. So I'm gonna do a giveaway to give back to you guys once we hit 25,000, but I don't know how to do that on YouTube, so we're gonna be doing that over on Instagram. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, you can go to Bundle Birth and find me there. That's where you're gonna be getting the inside scoop about when I'm posting videos, or if I have polls about things, if there's merch or new things happening over with me at Bundle Birth or YouTube. Go over to Instagram, follow me over there, and then stay tuned when we hit 25,000. I have a very fun giveaway that I am putting together. It's going to be a smorgasbord of some of my favorite things. There's going to be some fun items from my What's in My Labor Bag video. I have, let me just show you. So stinking cute. They have like the cutest stuff, I swear, for babies and for mamas. So with this box, I really wanted to pamper you. I wanted to make you feel special. I wanted to give you some like really cool things to make you feel better about yourself. And so look at this robe. I follow Posh Peanut on Instagram, and they sent me a bunch of free stuff, and I'm not having a baby, so I figure I don't need it, so I'm gonna give it to you guys. So I did open this up and it just happened, so now you know it's only really been me that's put it on. There's gonna be this beautiful, super soft robe that you can wear postpartum. You can bring with you to the hospital. Hopefully a lot of these items are gonna make you feel better about yourself. They are both for pregnant mamas and mamas who've had their babies before. I am not done doing giveaways, so if it is past when I hit 25,000 that you see this video, no big deal. Go over there. There's gonna be always stuff going on. Enough on that. Exciting things are coming. One of the questions that I've seen a ton, or I've gotten in DMs or whatever at Instagram, which I want to address, and I don't actually have somebody to shout out here for this one, but it is normal that as you get bigger and bigger, meaning more and more pregnant, that you are gonna experience some discomforts of pregnancy. And some of that may be contractions at the end of your pregnancy or even during your pregnancy. One of the things that happens is as the uterus grows and then the baby comes down in your pelvis, it is not uncommon for women to feel what we in the pregnancy world, or even I don't even know about medical world, but as a nurse I used to say it all the time, is lightening crotch. So lightening crotch is this sensation where you're chilling and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, my vagina, ah, ow. This like sharp shooting, lightning-like, out of the blue, lightning pain in your vagina. We don't necessarily know where it comes from. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong. It just means that something's being triggered down there to send more of a nerve-like pain into your vagina. It is not contractions. It does not mean that you're in labor. It's completely separate from labor. I wanted to address that really quickly because I get that question a lot. It's normal. I'm sorry. Quick position changes can actually trigger it. So when you go to get up, just get up slowly rather than like pop up out of bed, and then you may be able to prevent it a little bit. Otherwise, it just kind of is what it is, and it's annoying, but your vagina will be okay. That light is really bright today. Aloilani Zapata said, this is on the should you get an epidural or not video, but this also has to do with the tearing video. She says, if you tear, would you feel it without having an epidural? Great question. I always say great question, but they all are really good questions. If you don't have an epidural, most people feel discomfort down there anyway. They likely will feel the tear, but they may not like connect it in their mind that like, oh, my tissues are tearing. As the baby stretches out the tissues and the tissues get really thin, meaning I'm talking like not cervix, I'm talking vagina hole, there's less blood flow to that area, not quite as like juicy with your blood, and therefore you don't feel as much. Most of the time you're not knowing like, oh, there was the tear. You just find out later because there's so much sensation going on down there. Now, with an epidural, you wouldn't feel any of that. And if there was a repair that needed to be done, they wouldn't have to numb you up. They would just use the epidural as anesthesia to stitch you up. But if you don't have an epidural, they would use local medicine, like inject it with some lidocaine or some local numbing medication to make sure you don't feel the stitching. If you feel the stitching, just be like, yo, I need more anesthesia. I can feel that and it does not feel nice. This comes from Help, My Water Broke, Now What? Cherry Bowman says, not everyone goes, this actually isn't even a question, but I just wanted to address it. Not everyone goes to the hospital. A lot of women give birth at home with a midwife. I think those births are a lot easier and more comfortable for the woman. And so I wanted to comment on this one, but I thought it's probably a little bit of like a paragraph. It may seem a little ranty, and so I wanted to address it here. So I totally recognize that not everybody goes to the hospital. My background is in the hospital, and so I am filtering my education through hospital birth. Now, labor and birth is the same no matter where you give birth. If you give birth in the hospital or the home, that is totally your decision. Yes, people give birth with midwives. In fact, some of my best friends are midwives. So yes, I recognize not everybody delivers in the hospital, but these videos are tailored towards hospital birth in the United States. The other side is, she says, I think those births are a lot easier and more comfortable for the woman. I just want to say that like easier and more comfortable, I would say is super individualized. So when you're thinking about where to give birth, some people are going to gravitate towards a home birth because they feel more safe at home. They recognize it as a natural process, but you can still recognize that it's a natural process and give birth in the hospital. They feel safer, they feel more supported, that their home is the place where they feel like they want to have their baby. And then there is the group of people who feel actually safer and more comfortable in a hospital setting because they have the resources readily available in the case of an emergency. So I am not going to tell you which one is better. I am only going to tell you that you need to do your research, and that when you're thinking about where you want to give birth, that you do have options, and that home birth is only an option for low-risk pregnancies. If you become a high-risk pregnancy, you may be ruled out for a home birth. So you have to have a totally normal, non-complicated pregnancy in order to deliver at home. Mama Makeup says, can you do this if you are having twins with delayed cord clamping? Great question for your provider. This is going to be very much case by case. In general, the answer is yes. Some providers are going to say you can't with the first baby that's born, but you can with the second baby that's born. Great question for your doctor. It is not completely ruled out as an option if you are having twins. Athena Yazzie says, does this change when women have a C-section related to delayed cord clamping? And if you have a C-section, you can still do delayed cord clamping. You do need to talk to your doctor about it though. Taylor Maloney says, and I think she wrote me on Instagram on this one too, so this will hit two birds with one stone. Can you tell me what happened 3 weeks ago? I was up randomly from 2 to 5 a.m. with very painful contractions, same strength. They would not come consistently. 2, 5, 15, 3 minutes apart, but lasted for 3 minutes at least. After 5 a.m. it went away. I was 36 and 5 weeks along. This is super common, and I wanted to address this as far as like when to go to the hospital, what's normal. I actually got a text from a client this week who had kind of the same thing happen. It is not uncommon to have contractions at night, particularly as your body gears up for labor and birth. You are going to likely have this like kind of like, ooh, is this labor? Oh, no, it's not. Oh, wait, is this labor? No, it's not. It went away. That is why your key word for going to the hospital or active labor is regular, that you're waiting for those contractions to be regular and you're ignoring them when they start happening. I think it's easy for people that when they first start having contractions, they're like, oh, yay, let's time them and see where we're at, when really, unless they are stopping you in your tracks, forcing you to breathe, then you really don't even really need to be timing them yet, okay? So it is normal during your pregnancy to have little spurts of contractions that go away, times where you think, ooh, maybe this is labor. Well, maybe it's not. Keep waiting it out, particularly if it's your first baby. Labor will establish itself. Your instinct is everything. How many of you have heard me say this before? But I really mean that like childbirth education is such a broad topic. And so when I say something, it is not Bible. It is not 100% for everybody. If you are feeling concerned or feeling like there's something wrong or feeling like your baby's coming out of you, it might be go to the hospital, call your midwife, do what you gotta do. Yes, GBS, all about GBS. This is from Ashlyn Kirksey. If you got there and didn't have time to be treated, wouldn't it be safer for them to just do a C-section? So guys, when we're talking about GBS, GBS is like a very mild thing. Like, we care, we want to pay attention. It's like something that we treat, but in the grand scheme of things, not treating for GBS does not equal your baby will get an infection that is potentially very serious, okay? If your baby doesn't get treated in time, like, and that also goes for people who just go into labor really fast and they don't have time for it, still your chance of infection is still only 1 in 200 babies will actually get infected. So to take all of the risks of a C-section versus a 1 in 200 chance of maybe getting an infection that is treatable, it doesn't tip the scale quite as much. Which leads me to Liz Frusher's, did I kill that? Liz Frusher's question of, if you didn't get treated and the baby tests positive for GBS infection, what would be the next steps? So what would happen is they would watch your baby and they would take the vital signs more frequently. They may do blood tests, likely will do blood tests. And then if your baby ends up having signs of infection or tests positive for GBS, then they would treat the baby with antibiotics. So ideally, you're like wanting your baby not to have to get poked with antibiotics in the grand scheme of things and avoid antibiotics altogether. But at the same time, like, they will treat the baby, they're gonna watch the baby and kind of flex and flow from there. Which leads me to First Time Mama 2019 says, what if you're allergic to penicillin? Would they use amoxicillin? If you are allergic to penicillin, with that being the first line of treatment for GBS that typically doctors are gonna go for, first of all, they need to know if you're actually allergic, if you're just sensitive, and then they may just try another antibiotic. But if you're truly allergic, like anaphylaxis, throat closing, face blowing up type, not really blowing up, like really getting swollen type allergic, then what they would do is take your swab, send it to the lab and do what's called sensitivity testing, where they actually use different types of antibiotics to see which one responds best, meaning kills off the bacteria best for your bacteria that they found in your vagina. There's other types of antibiotics that are not penicillin driven. Great question for your doctor if you are allergic to penicillin, but they will still treat you and give you antibiotics to try to kill off that bacteria. This comes from All About Cesarean Birth, What to Expect and More. Tony Maud says, what happens if you feel like you're going to faint during C-section or vaginal birth? Honestly, this actually is a good question because I get asked this a lot in my childbirth classes, and we're talking about the mama fainting, not the partner. Partners, if you feel like fainting, please sit down, put your head between your legs, drink some juice. We don't want you going down, okay? But women, I've actually never had somebody pass out during birth. Your body is super resilient. It knows what to do. If you feel like you're fainting, most of the time in labor, it's because you're hyperventilating. So when you're doing your breathing, you're and freaking out. And that, when you breathe too much, in fact, it is true right now, actually. Give me a second. You may start to feel lightheaded, and so what I usually do is slow the breath down. It's great motivation to slow your breathing down. Now, in a C-section, if you feel like passing out, or feel dizzy, it may be because of maybe a medication that they gave you. That's something to say to your doctor or your anesthesiologist that's hanging out by your head. But in general, it is super uncommon to pass out. If you feel like you're gonna faint, tell somebody around you and they'll kind of be able to assess the situation and see if there's a cause for it. It could mean low blood pressure, it could be reaction to the medication. In general, just fainting out of the blue for no reason / just because of the pain is super uncommon. Ooh, I like this one. The iron bloodline. Ooh, that sounds so good. Are you able to labor in the tub, move freely, delay cord clamping, and try different birthing positions if they have to treat you for GBS at the hospital? I have these on my birth plan, but I need to know if it's still possible. Such a good question. So treating for GBS happens about every 4 hours with a standard dose. They're gonna treat you every 4 hours and it takes about 30 minutes for the antibiotics to go into your system. And so what would happen is, depending on your hospital, still talk to your doctor to make sure you work that out with them, because I don't wanna make you any promises and then given your certain scenario, they're like, no, you can't do this. And you're like, well, Sarah told me that I could do this, but then you can't, and now you're disappointed. And then your birth plan's all out of the window, and then you potentially affects your birth memory. So we definitely don't want that. But what I will say is, in general, you should be able to still do all of those things. What would happen is they would start an IV, they would give you the antibiotics. Once the antibiotics are done, you would ask for a saline lock that allows you to be disconnected from the IV. They can cover it if you're in the shower or the tub so that it doesn't get wet. And then guess what? You can flop your arms around all you want, no big deal. And then 4 hours later, they would reconnect you, give your antibiotics for 30 minutes, and then you would go from there. So it doesn't mean that you can't do all of those things. It does mean though that every 4 hours or so for 30 minutes, you will be tethered to the IV. Teresa Shane commented on my C-section video, and this has to do with breastfeeding. So if you guys want videos on breastfeeding, I am a breastfeeding educator, but I do occasionally post about breastfeeding on my Instagram page. So if you want some of that, you can go there. Otherwise, I'm gonna answer this question. She basically tells her story about how it looks like she's probably gonna have a C-section. She said, I am super confused. How will my body know to start producing milk? Is there something specific they do or give me that triggers that response, since technically I'm not going into labor? Or am I? Question mark. Here's the deal. Your body has had milk since week 14 to 17 of your pregnancy. Since early on, even before your baby could live outside the womb, you had milk. If your breast changed in size, you have to trust that you have milk. These are some of my scripty things that I tell everybody. Your body knows to hold on to the milk because you still have a placenta. It's not actually really labor that stimulates the letdown or the release of the milk. It's the removal of the placenta. So whether you have a vaginal birth or a C-section, that milk is sitting in there getting nice and juicy and nutrient dense. And then once your placenta comes out, which it does even in a C-section, that's the trigger that it's time to release the milk. And once the milk is there, then you remove it, and then that tells your body to make a little more. It's supply and demand, so it doesn't really matter the route of delivery. You can still breastfeed, and if you keep removing the milk regularly, then you should continue to increase your milk supply. Oh, I need to go to Instagram. I just have been flying through these ones, but let me find all the Instagram ones. If you were at my very first Instagram live, I gave you a code word, and I am going to be answering some of your questions that were on the Instagram live that responded to my question on here. And the code word was actually succulents, because I was sitting by succulents when I did it and I really like them as a plant. Plus Cherryberry says, what are your thoughts on water birth, yay or nay? My thoughts are that if your hospital or birth center or you're doing a home birth and they allow it and you feel like it's gonna help you in your labor, then go for it. Water birth can be very soothing for mamas. It helps create like buoyancy and not quite so much pressure in the pelvis. Plus you have like the warm water that's soothing for coping purposes, that if you feel like that's something that's gonna help you in your labor, my thoughts are, then you should go for it. Any other succulent questions? Stacy McQuaid says, is there anything you can do to prevent preeclampsia? My answer, the quick one, is not really. Anybody can get preeclampsia. If you have pre-existing high blood pressure, that would be something that you'd want to get under control prior to conceiving if possible. Past that, there's maybe some lifestyle stuff, but in general, anybody can get preeclampsia. You can be fit, you can not be fit, you still can end up with preeclampsia. So my quick answer to that one, which I will do a video all about preeclampsia, eventually it's on my very long list, and we can talk about that, but in general, the answer is not really. Mrs. Kicksfly says, C-section recovery time. How long do I have to wait to hold my 2-year-old? C-section recovery time, in general, we tell people about 6 weeks recovery from the surgery, and you're progressing through those 6 weeks. During those 6 weeks, the recommendation is to not hold anything heavier than your newborn, or another way to think about it is about a gallon of milk. Now, you're thinking about what feels good to you. If it feels like it's putting pressure or strain on your incision, then you're not doing it. Your 2-year-old can still like sit on your lap, but as far as carrying your baby around, you're gonna wanna wait as long as you possibly can. Flex and flow though, because we know how life is, and you're working your way in. I would say definitely for the first 2 weeks that you're avoiding lifting your 2-year-old. Again, depends on how big your 2-year-old is, but gallon of milk is the recommendation for lifting after C-section, and then flex and flow working into carrying your 2-year-old. Great question for your doctor. I think I'm done. My back hurts, and so I'm gonna need to say goodbye today. Thank you guys for being here and for watching and for subscribing and for asking so many questions and engaging with me. I love hearing from you, and I am paying attention. So if you want more from me, you can always go to bundlebirth.com. I have childbirth classes online, live childbirth classes, birth coaching, where I one-on-one coach you through your pregnancy and support you through the end. If you live in LA, I can be your doula. Hit me up. We'll figure it out. I'm here for you. Make sure you follow me on Instagram so that you can always stay up to date for when I'm posting videos, or if there's events or other things, other recommendation, more education. You can never get enough of that. What else? If you're looking for product recommendations, I have an Amazon list. Everything's gonna be linked down below. Until next time, don't forget to flex and flow, and I will see you very soon. Bye. More. 25,000. So I'm actually gonna do a gift. Stay tuned for more. Started. Shout out and rose into your, oh my gosh, why am I so not articulate today? And you're like, there's lightning or like nerves or something in my vagina. Aloilani. I want macaroni and cheese. Actually did GBS. A lot of questions about if you this also leads me. Oh, that is not the best coffee I've ever had. Okay. Great question. Ow. Oh. Isn't that the truth? Oh, that's nice. Oh, that is not a good look. Breastfeeding. What else? Hey everyone, okay. Lightening crotch. Ooh, lightning crotch. Have the best day ever. Not flipping you off, okay? Have the best day ever.